Well, digital KYT's main basically purpose is to reduce the losses, the costs, but also the friction that are linked to suspicious, fraudulent, or criminal transactions that happen within banks. Effectively, banks or financial institutions have been asked by regulators in recent times repeatedly to improve the reporting on suspicious transactions. That means, on one hand, that they want a report that's near time, so fairly immediate, but also they want a report that contains enough information to help the regulator to, create an opinion on whether a transaction is really fraudulent or not. Right. The challenge for compliance teams are also basically the flagging of alerts that are actually not inaccurate, that do not really pertain to suspicious transactions, and as such eat away a lot of their time. And DKYT ensures that actually the transactions that are flagged are really suspicious, so the compliance team can really spend most of the time on the transactions that are important. Now, from a client perspective, honest, legitimate clients are very frustrated when one of their transactions is either blocked or slowed down because there's a wrong suspicion. So in a nutshell, digital KYT reduces the chances of negative reputational impacts and costs for banks. It makes the work of compliance teams more effective, and it increases client satisfaction. Fundamentally, we work with 3 layers. There is the rule machine, based on which any suspicious activity is very fast detected and emerges. But there's also a machine learning layer that will look at the information and spot for new types of kind of fraud that's generated out of the system, and will try to optimize, create recommendation to optimize the fraud. And finally, there's a deep learning layer that will look at unstructured information and try to detect new fraud patterns as such, because we are constantly confronted by fraudsters who use new strategies, and it is important to catch them fast. Now, we add to these layers what we call visualizations, logging, and reporting engines that make it easier for the compliance team to work on information that is complete, right? And basically, it makes it much easier and more efficient for them to make decisions that then can be traced. Fundamentally, we have 2 types. Some data sets we consider as being direct data sets, either pertain to the indirect information linked to the transaction activity. But there are also contextual data sets that may stem from CRM, core banking system, and other basically sources that help to profile a given activity and transactions. But it is important, whatever you use, that these data sets are compliant, and one must also make sure that they're used in a fair manner. So digital KYT, Know Your Transaction, clearly helps financial institutions move to the next level in terms of fraudulent or money laundering, suspicious transaction detection. It helps mitigate the risks, but also the reputational impacts linked to fraudulent transactions. It also helps compliance teams work with more efficiency, because they make informed and traceable decisions. For clients, this solution actually enables a safer, a faster, but a more fluid and frictionless form of transactions, because the monitoring and the KYC happen invisibly. Today, when chasing financial criminals, these usually have the initiative, and banks try to play catch-up. We could envision basically a solution that's AI-driven, and that, based on high-performance computing, for example, would try to project future fraud patterns that have not been used or detected yet, and therefore forewarn banks where banks would have to look at going forward. That's one avenue. The other avenue we could imagine is actually linked to sharing. So within a compliant and within a trusted environment, banks among banks, or banks with financial crime fighters, would maybe share something considered as indices of fraud or fraudulent behavior, or also share very fast what they have detected actually as being substantiated fraud. So these are the 2 avenues we see for the future, and that's how the solution could be evolved in order to make fraud detection far more effective.